issue 39. Let me ask you a question. If you knew that Darkseid and his hordes were looking for some ancient relics on Earth, and you had a pretty good idea what those relics were, who would you send to protect the relics? Maybe the Justice League? Maybe the Justice League of America? Heck, Doom Patrol? Titans? Teen Titans at a minimum? No, in Wonder Woman 39, it's Steve Trevor and the Oddfellows. I shit you not. But it's nonetheless an intriguing issue. Let's check it out. Guys, Wonder Woman number 39. This issue consists of primarily two things. It is basically Wonder Woman fighting Silver Swan, with her brother Jason showing up to help her battle Silver Swan, and Steve Trevor and the Oddfellows protecting an artifact being abducted or being stolen by the female Furies who are sent by Darkseid to retrieve this one of four artifacts or four relics that Darkseid needs to obtain so that he can accomplish some nefarious purpose which has yet to be revealed. A lot of questions in this issue, but first let's deal with the most interesting in my view. And the most interesting is most certainly not Wonder Woman fighting Silver Swan or Jason showing up, because that's I don't know, that's just not exciting. The more interesting part is, you remember in leading up to this, Wonder Woman needed the help, or at least she got the help, whether she wanted it or not, of the Justice League in holding off and essentially battling Darkseid and Grail to a stalemate, and that was following Darkseid's killing of her father Zeus. Now, Darkseid and Grail escaped, and Darkseid and Grail are continuing to look for four relics. Now, what's interesting here in this beautifully drawn issue by Emanuela Lapacino and Carmen Canero on the pencils. James Robinson's the writer, continues to be the writer. Ray McCarthy and Canero on the inks. Romulo Fajardo on colors, beautiful colors, compliments to the colors. Seda Temafonte on letters, and Paul Renard on the cover, and Jenny Frison on the variant cover as well. And Andrew Marino is the assistant editor, and Chris Conroy the editor as well. Just a number of things here. This is James Robinson, the writer, seems to be duplicating the plot line from the Justice League movie. What's very interesting here is Darkseid sort of elaborates more on his plan with Grail in a beautiful double-page sequence. Darkseid is hidden out in the Amazon jungle, and he basically explains to Grail that they're looking for, they need to complete finding the four relics. The reason why Darkseid has a hideout in the Amazon jungle is apparently the Amazon jungle, in that particular spot in the Amazon jungle where he is, that's where a lot of the new world or the new god's science with the old god's magic sort of entwined to create a central point of some significance, that when Darkseid brings all these four relics into play, he's going to be able to accomplish his nefarious purpose that we don't know what that is yet. Now, what's interesting here is that the relics in play, they're actually four boxes, and if you actually look on the page itself, you can see that they've got two already of these boxes. Now, they don't call them mother boxes. I don't know why they don't call them mother boxes. They did this. They kind of did the same thing in the Justice League movie. They didn't really. They were fast and loose with the fact that they. I don't know if they really actually called them mother boxes in the movie. Did they? I can't remember. In any event, you recall in the Justice League movie, Steppenwolf was the bad guy, and they combined those three mother boxes, or three boxes. Here, again, Darkseid is looking for essentially mother boxes, but he calls them, even Grail refers to them as the final four relics. The final four relics. Why not call them boxes? They all look like boxes. It's ridiculous. I don't call it a box. But in any event, Steve Trevor has reason to believe he's located where he believes one of these relics is located, and he goes, him and his Oddfellows. It's Steve Trevor and the Oddfellows. How's that for a name, huh? Once again, this tradition of whenever there's men in Wonder Woman comic books, it's very rare for them to allow to be men, right? They either look like some sort of twisted version. They either look like elves, like Jason's stepfather Glaucus, or his band of merry men. They either look very odd, or they are in fact called Oddfellows. Fuck, I can't even say it. Anyways, so Steve Trevor goes to protect this, one of the mother boxes being apprehended by the female Furies. And a couple of interesting revelations here. Darkseid reveals that he uses the female Furies, and he revealed that the Deep Six are also under his control. He reveals that the reason why he hasn't revealed himself he reveals why he hasn't gone back to Apocalypse and taken over Apocalypse. Apparently, he wants to do it, the timing just right, so that when he goes back to Apocalypse, he can make a grand entrance, and therefore he feels that he'll have more control and he'll be able to terrorize the masses more, because he's well aware of the fact that Apocalypse is going under sort of a crisis of leadership. Remember, there was Lex Luthor was the leader of Apocalypse, and then somebody else, and then somebody else. I haven't really been following that too much, because it's Apocalypse now is in a state of transition. Meanwhile, Darkseid, for whatever reason, needs these mother boxes. It's worth quoting at length what Darkseid has said while putting his plan into motion. When Grail asks him about, why are we here? Why are we in the Amazon jungle? What's so special about this place in the Amazon jungle? Why are we getting all these artifacts together? He says, we need to be here. That's all there is to it. The temple is rich in the ancient energy that we need for what lies ahead. It's a mixture of old magic and new god science. The artifacts they've been collecting weren't enough, even with the energy returned to align them. So in order for his plan to continue, they need to gather the rest. Doesn't really say why. Darkseid says, you'll no doubt have noticed how careful I've been in terms of whom I involved in this. Now, that's very true. He's been very careful. Apocalypse, with its seemingly revolving door of rulers lately, is a place with too many reasons one could be tempted to shift one's affiliation. Not even sure what he means by that. Since regaining my true age and power, I've been careful to keep my any assistance I might require to a minimum, so those like Kantos and Wunderbearer, even Desaad and your brother Kalibak can all prove their loyalty at a time I deem right. Darkseid's logic there doesn't quite make a lot of sense to me, but we'll go with it. I think that's his way of justifying the fact that he was too weak to take on Apocalypse before, but that's his cognitive dissonance talking, saying he has to justify some reason why he hasn't bravely gone back to Apocalypse and taken it over. The simple fact of the matter is that he feared being made a fool of, I think, and he needs to gain some more power before he's going to go back. In any event, he did confirm that he has his female Furies and the Deep Six. Now, if you recall in an earlier issue of Wonder Woman, the Deep Six actually attacked Jason at the end of one of the previous issues. But that battle was never shown. But clearly Jason himself has a rogues gallery. But what's interesting is that the Deep Six, we don't know what happened, the outcome of that. If the Deep Six at one point attacked Jason, what happened? I'm assuming that at the end of the Deep Six attacking Jason in an earlier issue, an outcome that we never saw, that must have been how Jason actually met Grail and Darkseid. Perhaps the Deep Six recruited Jason initially in order to bring Jason on board, to convince him to help Darkseid and Grail before he eventually battled Wonder Woman and changed his mind. In any event, where we're going there, it seems clear that as this issue is ending, the female Furies are attacking Steve Trevor and the Oddfellows as they try to protect the 3 out of the 4 mother boxes, or the final relics as they call them, from Darkseid. Meanwhile, the other story is Silver Swan and Wonder Woman. Silver Swan attacks Wonder Woman. They battle throughout the city. Silver Swan, fairly predictable. It's a beautifully drawn sequence. The art's fantastic as Silver Swan battles Wonder Woman, but she's just very predictable. Not very, I don't find it particularly interesting. It's just a waste. It's not a waste of pages. They're beautifully drawn pages, but nothing. It's not really moving the story forward. I would so much prefer that they would just leave Silver Swan out of this entire issue. It's far more interesting to have Darkseid looking for these artifacts. Why are we getting distracted by a Silver Swan? It's such a meaningless, completely unnecessary distraction. And of course, Jason then wants to help out Wonder Woman. He sees on TV Wonder Woman battling Silver Swan, so he goes and he tries to help out, only to be had his throat slit. by Silver Swan because he underestimates Silver Swan, and the issue ends with them sort of falling, all three of them sort of falling to the earth, while hundreds of miles away in another part of the globe, Steve Trevor and the Oddfellows are battling the female Furies, trying to prevent them from acquiring the third of the fourth final relic for Darkseid's nefarious purpose, which is yet to be revealed. So that's where we're at. Overall, it's an interesting issue. It definitely moves the story forward. I was wrong. I thought Jason would actually help Wonder Woman or talk Silver Swan down. That doesn't appear to be the case. Silver Swan is unfortunately just a typical psychopath who's been taken over by nanites, sort of a corrupted soul. In that way, not particularly interesting. Wonder Woman still requires a villain that is actually a villain for villain's sake. Enough with these misunderstood women as villains, for Christ's sake. You know, women can be bitches, women can be villains. Give her a true villain who chooses to be a villain. Bring back Veronica Cale, because at least Veronica Cale had some motivation there that made some sense, and she was a sympathetic character. But in any event, not a bad issue. It's moving the story forward. I don't like the sidetrack of the Silver Swan. That should be for another completely separate storyline. But the other question that you have to ask is, why the hell isn't the Justice League involved? The Justice League helped Wonder Woman defeat Darkseid to begin with last issue, so why on God's green earth aren't the Justice League with Steve Trevor trying to protect the artifacts? If they're aware, surely to God, Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman told the Justice League that, by the way, Darkseid is looking for artifacts on the planet. Why wouldn't they tell them that? Why would Steve Trevor and his fairly useless band of Oddfellows, why wouldn't they want help? I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. It's very hard to believe. This is a potentially fantastic storyline that should involve the Justice League at a minimum. And it's fun, it's interesting, but no one's talking about this storyline. And maybe if you actually had the Justice League involved, or if you had more of the bigger players in the DC Universe involved, more people would talk about it. Because it is a big deal, more people should be talking about it. It's a good storyline, it's beautifully drawn, and but these sidetrack subplot stories of Silver Swan and Jason, while all this big stuff's going on, it's astonishing to me that Wonder Woman makes very tough decisions. She has to. That means that she might have to help these people, and that might mean not being able to help other people. And for that reason, I don't believe for one second that Wonder Woman would go to some random fan's house like she did last issue, as opposed to going to help Steve Trevor. Steve Trevor's going to check out some artifact that Darkseid might be wanting to acquire, and Wonder Woman's going to go check out a call from a fan. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. It's not a decision that Wonder Woman would make, or at least not how I view the character, but I'm not writing it. Overall, I sound like I'm being harsh on this, but I want to give a compliment to James Robinson again. Frankly, this is a continued improvement. It is. He's trying to bring more characters in. He's trying to explore Jason's growth as a character and the mistakes Jason's making by trying to bite off more than he can chew, by helping out Wonder Woman when he's not ready, when he's not trained enough, when he's not good enough. So Jason is a character that's continuing to grow. Silver Swan is a beautifully drawn character. She's still an interesting character. The choreography here in this issue, the way that the artist Emanuela Lapacino and Carmen Canero, the way they draw the choreographed battle scene between Silver Swan and Wonder Woman was very well done. There's a fantastic sequence where Jason is using his powers to control the wind to defeat Silver Swan, and the way they have her Silver Swan cover herself and then surprise Jason and slit his throat. That was beautifully drawn, beautifully choreographed fight scenes. This is really good stuff in terms of how this story is being told. Like, again, artistically, you could infer what's going on literally by just looking at the pictures without the dialogue. It's actually very, very good. You could even infer that Darkseid's looking for the artifacts without the dialogue, because in that beautiful spreadsheet that it shows Darkseid and Grail in the Amazon jungle, you can see 2 of the mother boxes already in place, and that there's 2 missing spots for those other boxes. You can just infer that by looking at the art. So it's a high compliment in that regard. So clearly James Robinson, I'm getting a strong sense that he knows where he wants to take these characters. and going against my expectations here. And I like that. I like that. I am being a little hard on him, as I suppose I always am, but I'm enjoying this, and I like the fact that this is a Wonder Woman-centric story, and even though it doesn't make a lot of sense that the Justice League aren't involved at this point in my mind, I don't mind it because part of me, and I say this paradoxically, and perhaps somewhat hypocritically, I kind of like that Wonder Woman is the focus here, and that she probably doesn't want the Justice League's help, because she clearly didn't want the Justice League's help when she took on Darkseid last issue. She got pissed off when the Justice League showed up because she wanted to take on Darkseid one-on-one. Wonder Woman's kick-ass here, but if Wonder Woman has a fault, and she likes to maybe bite off more than she can chew. She thinks she can handle more than she can, and that might be something that might come back to haunt Wonder Woman, just as it haunted her brother Jason this issue when he bit off more than he can chew trying to take on Silver Swan without coordinating his attack with his sister, or staying out of it altogether as Wonder Woman warned him to do so. In any event, guys, this is it. Things are heating up. Things are heating up. Darkseid's finding those he's finding those mother boxes for his nefarious purpose. This thing is moving toward a very interesting conclusion. So in the meantime, see you next issue, and Comic Boom out.